I guess we'll just, I guess I'll name them off by my screen here. Mike Weber is present. Kristen?
Here. Kristen
Michelle?
here.
Michelle Kirkby here.
Hi, Meredith. How are you?
Hi, Meredith Chamberlain here.
Robert?
Robert Worth here.
Bob?
Bob Donahoe here.
Carolyn? She's muted.
She's muted.
May I ask her to unmute? Might as well do Jeffrey
Jeff Marsden here.
and Steve.
Steve Grenham here.
Carolyn, there you are.
Did you ask me a question, Steve? It
I
said I should
did.
unmute.
Are you present?
Mute.
Are you present, Carolyn? We just let's do the roll call to start the meeting. Take that as a yes. All right. Great. So we're missing, looks like Teresa, Mather, and Bill.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And Tony.
Tony.
Okay. Still have a quorum. All right, so let's get going. I have the agenda here. The first one was to approve meeting minute approval. First of all, let me apologize for the last meeting. We had a confluence of vacations and I screwed up not getting the agenda to Christine being on a Monday. So I apologize, everybody, for the mix-up the last time. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I was really embarrassed about it, so I apologize and thank you all for making the time today. All right.
Mike,
So-
if you want, I can talk about the minutes.
Sure. that'd be
Yeah,
great.
this is my staffing issue. So as you know, we had a recording clerk who was working for the town who left our employment. During that time, we got very far behind on the select board minutes. And so when we bought the new recording clerk online, obviously, my bias, their importance for me was getting the select board minutes caught up to date. They are still working on a backlog of things. So I have found a plan B and I have a backup recording clerk who has been given the 3 sets of minutes that are missing for the SBC. And now that I have full staffing on the recording clerks, I should be able to get that to you for your next meeting. And if not, I will personally make sure that I complete them and have them for your next meeting. It's just unfortunately, staffing is hard all around. And even though I think this is the coolest job in the world to have a recording clerk, not everybody agrees, apparently. So.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, so not the end of the world. It's just that memories fade over time. So I just like them to be accurate. And
Oh, just so the recordings are all posted they've been sent to Medfield TV and they're all posted on the website. So people can rewatch them if they would like to. So.
okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks. So that's the first call. That's the first agenda item. The next one, maybe Carolyn, you can help us here or one of your committee, the Medfield Day.
Yeah, so Christine nicely gave us a booth. The town has a couple of booths and they had one they weren't going to use. So we do have a booth. So we're all set there, but we now need a plan for it. So we wanted to sort of talk about what you think you would like to have at this booth in September, knowing that there isn't a lot of time. We're thinking, is there a handout we want to have? Is there a question we want to ask? Just for like visual, we thought we should have some banners designed, like school building committee, big long banners, and could put a couple banners up around the booth. And, we're trying to get people to know us and come over and say hello. Bob, Meany, and I went to to a Thursday night gazebo concert and introduced ourselves and the committee. and invited people to come over and meet us. Sorry, it just echoed on me. And also to give us their emails, which I gave to Christine, so they could sign up for alerts from the school building committee when we put things out on the website, like the survey results. We would alert people it's ready. So I wanted to get a sense of what you wanted to have happened. And obviously it wouldn't be just the communication committee there. We'd love to have lots of people come, maybe, take a pieces and hours, but we thought we should start thinking about the plan as to what would actually be at the booth.
I think at one point, and I don't know if we're prepared to do this, just using the information from the last go round, there was some discussion about sharing some of the more detailed information about the sites that were available. I don't know if we're prepared to do that again, or if we feel like we're ready for that. That was one thing that did come up.
Yeah, and that
or
would make
be specific.
sense if, when we start talking about timeline and location, if this is our first topic, we could put together some information for people to come and look at and, understand the possibilities where we are, maybe would be ready for a question, but that kind of made the most sense to us too, knowing where we are at this point, but maybe there's a better idea.
I'm of the opinion of mostly just making sure everyone knows that this committee exists and trying to get some more emails and more kind of chatter starting about, getting involved. Meredith, go ahead.
I think it would be good if I know we have the minutes, but maybe some highlights, like a short sheet of what we've done so far. And then maybe in addition to that, if we take our next meeting and talk about things that we're going to talk about coming up, I think that would be helpful, because then if there's something in there that people are passionate about or really want to get invested in. So I think it kind of like a roadmap. Here's what we've accomplished so far. Here's what the fall is going to look like. Just give them like some brief little bullets. And then I also think just some document that also just lists all of us, maybe a couple sentences, just so they know us as humans and people and beyond just this. I think that will be helpful for them, because that way, if they're drawing conclusions, they can actually know a little background about us.
Does that mean we need to have some type of each one of us, our backgrounds, basically? Is that what you're asking for, Meredith?
If it's just like one sheet, just like
Yeah.
here are our members in like 2 or 3 sentences, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then if we each, if we just create like a Google sign up, Carolyn, like we can all take a few shifts, and then that way they're meeting different one of us.
Yeah, that's good.
What day is it exactly? I know I had this someplace, but I couldn't find it.
Good
I
question.
want to say the 17th. I'd have to look back at the calendar.
Is
Wait,
what
Are
day?
you looking for Medfield Day is September 23rd.
23rd, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what day does that fall on?
Saturday.
Saturday.
I should have known. But okay.
It would be nice if we could hand something out that was not a piece of paper, like a sticker, a magnet, something with a QR code, like something tangible. I feel like when you give paper out or a pamphlet or something, it just ends up getting lost or thrown away. Like at least the front of my fridge isn't magnetic, but the side is, and I stick things to it. I have things with QR codes. Like I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that's there now. Just like something that will stay with people. We could make a video together. I mean, it sounds hokey, but it could be like each one of us introducing ourselves, why this is important to us. That could kind of be our collective contribution to the promotion. Does that make sense?
Would the QR code lead them to the website where we post the video? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, it could go anywhere. It could go to the website. It could go to like the minutes. there could be 2 QR codes on there. I mean, it could be what I think at the very least, there should be one that leads people to sign up for updates.
Mhm.
Just so that, you know, it's kind of an easy way, like someone has their phone, they can scan it, even just a big QR code at the booth, like scan this, sign up for updates.
Yeah, Bill had mentioned that too. He thought something to personalize us in a short type of video, or even he was talking then about the survey results would be great to help people begin to get acquainted with the committee.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I guess similar to kind of what Meredith said, I feel like everything should be very high level. I don't think we should be digging into anything quite granularly yet. I think it's very much like if we can establish what a goal for Medfield Day is, and I think it sounds like it's to bring awareness that the new group exists and that we've started to work on the project. I think it should be what we've done so far and like kind of the road ahead, and less like, personally, I think less like site selection and things that are going to be triggering topics for people when they come to our booth. I think the survey is a good idea, so people can kind of get a sense of like what information has been gathered so far. But I just want to, I don't know. I think if the goal is to raise awareness that we exist and get emails, those are great high level goals for us to be working towards, and kind of staying away from stickier topics might be something we want to try to do at this point in time.
Should there be a poster as well showing a proposed school, knowing that it, you know, it might not look anything like it, but since you have some information like that, do you want something behind the people in the booth showing a new school, or what it could look like?
I was thinking it'd be nice to have something there that people would, as they're walking by, say, oh, that must be about a school, like,
Yes, exactly.
you know, whether it's the banner that clearly says school building committee, or if there's a huge picture of Dale, you know, just,
Yeah,
you know, there's so much going on that I don't want people to walk by and like, I don't know what that one's about, and keep going.
right. Maybe
Is there any like
showing,
renderings of
Yeah.
like a classroom? Like I feel like that's less about the exterior of the school and the controversial topics, and more just about kids in the classroom learning, like a rendering from the last committee when they did like the proposal of what the inside of the building would look like.
yeah, something inside, an interior view of what a classroom or the admin area or whatever, or library or whatever might be a good focal point.
Yeah, I like that idea of a classroom because it takes it away from, let's argue about where this building is and if we like the building. But
Right.
a classroom's a classroom. Do you have anything like that, Jeff, from the last project? Is there any?
We do, yeah. I think we have some renderings of that. We have to see if we have just classroom or if we had them all on one board that had both the outside and the inside. I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah,
If not, we
definitely have
probably
some.
somewhere too.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. So what I'm hearing is people saying, so we could do a QR code that would lead to the website. We could have bio information. And if we could get the video together, it would take a little bit of work on that part. We could do a highlight sheet of where we are, what we've done, just to say, hey, here's what we've done so far. I've been meeting since January or February, and you could highlight it. And then try to get people to sign up for the website. And maybe something tangible with the QR code that gets you to the school committee website. By the way, Christine sat with me, and you're able to sort of customize the websites now on the Medfield Town website. So we did a little visual smithing with our website. You know, we eliminated some things on the left. Instead of having links to all other committees in town, we just put links to our committee. And, you know, we made an intro there for the survey, and then, you know, other things scroll down. So it's really getting more personal. I think if you took a look at it, you would like it. We are looking for more ideas about how to personalize it and make it very user friendly, so people right away can find what they want when they get to it.
I'm also wondering, when we were talking about the renderings, I remember some of the comments in the survey. People were thinking we're just using everything from last time and some confusion around that. And if we use renderings from last time, is that going to permeate sort of that thought? I didn't know, Steve, do you have any big banners that represent Dale? I mean, if we made one that was kind of like a header or the footer that clearly said like, I don't know, the second go of the school building committee or however we want to say it. Like, is there something that represents Dale? Because that's the building we're talking about rebuilding or, rehabbing.
Meredith, we do have, we do have kind of a big banner or whatever. It is, to Robert's point, it is more of a picture of kind of the pillars and that type of thing. So again, if we're trying to be totally transparent and maybe not going one way or the other, but normally what we use there, if you come into the school, there's like a painting of, the pillar areas with the core values that are there. So I know that we'll be talking tonight at the school committee meeting around the strategic plan and core values and stuff like that. So maybe after that's done, I don't know what Jeff's opinion would be, but maybe that's more of the next phase to kind of look what the core values are that hopefully will be district wide, and maybe just using more of Medfield M that we use a lot more to replicate the school district as a whole.
It's a good
Yeah,
idea, Steve.
I agree that some people are, not a lot, but some people in the survey didn't understand we were a new group, right? So we do want to clarify that. But, a picture of, I think a banner that says we're the school building committee, and then a picture like of Dale, but also a picture of a classroom, just a random new looking classroom that would get people to come over and then at least talk to us. And then we can be very clear about no decisions yet, but here's where we are looking, and all the rest would be about, PR piece.
Even though, it's good to have a picture of Dale as is, I still don't think it would be a bad idea to show something that what it could look like, whether it's in the exact same location or someplace else. You're still going to have to do some renovations. So if you do have a picture or rendering of what one of the proposed schools would look like, it might not be a bad idea to just put it beside the Dale photo.
Given the results that were in this survey, my personal take is that we stay away from anything that is school specific. There's still seems to be confusion with some members of the community about what that vote even was. So I worry about anything, like you said, a classroom interior, great. The school building committee, I think you keep it simple, and we're an engaging group. I think we can easily pull people in to discuss. No one's going to stand and wait for them to talk to us. We're going to.
So in other words, and there'll come a time when it will have to be brought up, whether it's at the old location or new, but just not now.
Well, if we're not talking about site selection at this stage with the public,
That's right.
I think we should put any renderings of anything, because I think it's just going to cause confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, but the renderings that we do have, Bob, are of all the old, that's the old architect, and we're going to go down a new path.
All
So to have that up there might be confusing more than anything.
Understood.
Something more agnostic, where it's an inside of a classroom, which is a classroom, right? It could be anywhere. Those are pretty self-explanatory. That I'd probably shy away from. We had like a stairs with like a nice clock and stuff like that. Like maybe that exists in the new building if we ever get it passed or when we get it passed, but maybe stay
Okay.
away from something like that that's very specific to the old proposal. Just really because we're starting afresh. Even though we have some of the old work, we just more than likely will have a new time. You know what I mean? And
No, I understand now.
I like the idea of a banner in a video, like even if the video is from a QR. And Carolyn, I got some people here in my office who can help with those things. So
Be great.
as far as the video goes, maybe it's literally a 20-second tidbit from all of us that says, hey, I'm so-and-so, really excited about the process, and I'm a electrical contractor, or you know what I mean? And this is what I do for a living, and I've been in town for 10 years or whatever it may be. Something along those lines would be just short and sweet, and we can figure that out. Maybe we all we can all probably film each other and, send it to me and I'll like link them all together with some software and we do something like that pretty easily.
I think that would be great. When it comes to like banners, I wasn't even sure how big the booths actually are, like, and physically, do we bring tables, Christine, or do we do we get a tarp? I like, don't really know.
You're
The
usually in
practical
charge of
piece.
bringing everything to your booth, tables, tents, anything for your booth, you're usually in charge of.
Okay,
How big are they? 8 by 8, something like that, 10 by 10?
Yeah, they're the size of like a pop-up tent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, those types of logistics are probably important, obviously, but so we can figure that out. I have a folding table that kind of goes end to end we could use, and I like the idea of handouts too. So whoever thought of that, I think that's a great idea. Maybe Robert, that was you, like something more than just a pamphlet. Although I think pamphlets are also helpful because you can get more info on them. But a sticker or whatever it may be, maybe it's a sticker with our website on it, something like that, just with the big M on it. I don't know.
or maybe we put SBC, it's a sticker, it says SBC in the QR code or a magnet. Whatever,
Hmm.
How about if the communications committee, which I think I'm the only one here tonight, the communications
I
committee.
think so too.
I'm speaking for them all. We could work on the document that highlights, because we had already been talking about a document that highlights what we've done in previous meetings. Maybe we could work on that piece, the document that gives a recap of what we've done.
That'd be great, sure. Yeah, along those lines, like I said, if you need help graphically or with printouts and things like that, Carolyn, let me know.
Okay, yes, I will. Yeah,
My marketing guy here would be more than happy to help us out, and he's really good at that stuff.
no, that would be great. Like, we just get the information together and he could make it pretty.
Yeah, exactly. He's excellent at that stuff.
Okay.
So I think maybe like the next meeting, we kind of do, I mean, other comments on it, like, I think the next meeting is probably dedicated just to this. It's just my opinion, just to get our ducks in a row and really plan it for the day. And there's probably 2 meetings in between then and now, just because that's September. So even another meeting in September to like nail it down, times, who's bringing what, all that good stuff would be like not next meeting, but the one after. But generally speaking, any other general comments? I think, Michelle, the way you said the goals, I agree with. I like to just general awareness, high level. This is who we are. Here's where we are to date. A little bit of focus on the children. It might be helpful. I don't know what we have, how we could do that, but that's kind of why we're all in this room or on Zoom right now. But that's the reason we're here, right? How do we maybe focus on that a little bit too? Not just the physical structure of what we're trying to get built.
To something Meredith said, which I think is important, and whether or not that's where you want to put it and publish it, but it's going to have to be, I think, fairly quick turnaround anyway, is what the next steps, the high level decisions that need to get made. I think that the community needs to get their arms around what is going to happen in all of this, just like we do. So that we need to settle on a site, we need to settle on the size, we need to, figure out what we're doing on the funding. Like, there's certain decision points and gates that I think first of all, we need to be documenting. And then I think that would be helpful information for the community to be aware of as well. I realize timelines for that may not be appropriate, but just a sense of what that process looks like, I think would help people put their head around what is actually being discussed and decided.
Yeah, that's a good segue into the next topic in the agenda, Kristen. Maybe I'll share my screen.
You can
Yeah.
formulate.
Let me share my screen here real quick. Christine, I believe I sent these to you, but I'll send them again. I haven't changed them since I sent them, but so we can post them if you don't mind. Let me try this here.
Yeah, you should be okay to share.
Let me know when you guys see this Word doc. very,
Yeah.
very basic. So this is, do you see a Word document?
Yes,
All right, so it was kind of asked last meeting. I said I put together a very high level kind of timeline of kind of the steps of the process. And again, I can send this to all of you right after the meeting as well. But generally, this is what I remember. I looked back at some of the old schedules that were put together by the OPM and architect and all that good stuff, and that helped me with some of the timelines. But also, you know, we don't have to do it exactly in this order, but the order is based. This is based on the MSBA order. So this was because we were in the program last year. We were going through their, you know, step-by-step process, which I think we should stick to for the time being until we find out about, you know, whether we're approved or not. So let me just start at the top. I'll read through it real quickly. I've highlighted a couple in yellow, which we can discuss more. So we got the SBC formed. We have an eligibility period, which we're all aware of. We have the invitation sent in. We have funds for the feasibility study, some of them. All this stuff is part of that eligibility period, what needs to be done. In or out of the program, the MSBA program, and Jeff and Steve, obviously you guys live this, and candidly, you know it better than I do. So please interrupt me if there's any discrepancies here. I will take no offense to being wrong. OPM selection, so that's an owner's project management, basically someone to help us coordinate everything, right? That's basically your partner, the person, you know, the group looking out for the town's best interest as we go through the process, and also a direct link to MSBA. They have, assuming we're in, they have a fair amount of experience with MSBA. You know, there's a dozen of them or so approved by the by MSBA. So that last time was a 4 to 6 month process. Candidly, I think it could be less, but that's just what it was last time. And then after that, typically an architect is selected. There's also there's meetings and things like that that go in between selecting an OPM and getting an architect on board, but that's usually the next step. And then what they have is a PDP, which is a preliminary design program. And again, that's when the educational program is required to be done. Sites are evaluated. And then there's a PSR, which is a preferred schematic report. So it has to be developed. At this time, the site selection must be made and the grade configuration must be made as well. So I've highlighted these things in red, in yellow here, because those can be done out of order. And I know there was some discussion in the last meeting that, you know, why don't we start talking about it now? I agree, but that's a personal opinion. Candidly, it could be done if we had public approval 100% that it has to be at Dale or it has to be here, we could do that now. The grade configuration, I have in parentheses here, school committee. I'm of the opinion, or rather, I think the last time I went through this, it was told to me that this is a strict school committee decision. We do vote on it, but typically that comes from the school committee. I don't know, Kristen or Michelle, if you guys have a comment on that, or Jeff.
Yeah, I would say that it's an active discussion. We've been reviewing the more recent, enrollment data, looking forward at the projections, discussing what's reasonable, also with I think with an eye towards, what might, have a better chance of getting through. So I think I would say for us, that one's an active discussion.
Mhm.
My hope would be that we would be bringing something more official to you far sooner than that, and that as well as the site selection should be parallel path.
Yeah, I second that. What she said makes sense. We're having active discussions about it, and I think depending on some of the scenarios that maybe come out of our discussions, that would go hand in hand with some of the other levers and factors that we're looking at on what's going to get a school to pass.
Sure. And just thinking back to, the warrant committee's really good presentation to us a month or two back, square footage wise, 3 grades is more than 2, which means it's more expensive.
Right.
So, and I know, the school committee's got, other things to worry about than just dollars and cents, but again, obviously that goes into your decision making here.
Like, and I would also add to that, when we did this last time, there was some chatter about, being expensive for 2 grades and all that. I mean, the issue is the enrollment, the amount of kids. It can be 5 grades, it can be 2 grades, it can be 1 grade. However, the school department is structured, but the cost is really the square footage and the enrollment of kids, not the number of grades. So I just, I think that's just an important point to bring up again, because I know that was something that came up last time.
Yep, I appreciate that comment, sure. So Kristen, to go back on what you said, the site select, this is again a personal opinion, the site selection and the grade configuration, yes, around the same time they should be being made, around parallel paths, like you said, but they can be made separately. So,
Yeah, just meaning like they shouldn't wait for all those other things that you have on the list before it, I think is my only point. We should be committed to getting that, very soon.
sure.
Which is our goal.
But as far as site selection, the next document I'll share, it talks about that. But again, that, and Carolyn, like you said, last meeting or 2 meetings ago, what can we be doing now? Well, that's certainly a discussion we can have now. And I'm not sure we need to make a decision per se, but that is certainly a discussion we can have, and we should have, because it's one of the major decisions that this group will make. The educational go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I totally agree. And we need ample time to be able to inform the committee of all that goes into that and make them part of it. And that always, will take some planning, forms for people to come to hear the pros and cons and what we're thinking. And, so I don't want to do that rush, since that was such a major factor last time.
And that's why the discussion should start now, right? Is kind of how I saw it, right? Okay, and then also what's important on this screen is the educational program, right? So again, I know a lot of my focus becomes the building, but the educational program itself is the most important thing that we have to deal with. And people on this call have much more experience at this than I do. So, but again, I know a lot of that's been done. Does it have to be refreshed? I'm sure. But again, Jeff and Steve and the others who are in education can probably talk better about that. But it's also something that probably doesn't need to be done just at the PDP, but even before that, to say that might help with who we select as an architect or an OPM. I don't know how they treat those differently, but probably a little bit, each of them. Okay.
And like, I guess it all depends on whether or not we get an MSBA too, right? That's kind of part of this too. And, we worked on that education plan last time, Steve and I and the department heads and some teachers that that helped us with that. And it really came out great. I mean, I remember you guys were at the meeting, some of you, that MSBA said it was a model for every elementary school going forward. Like this is the way it should be written. And I think we were proud of that, and we knew we put a good document together, but I definitely think there's some refreshing and some upgrades that need to be done to that document.
Great.
Maybe now would be a good time for me to bring this up then, because now a few times we've said MSBA, and one of the things that I feel like we maybe just need to, maybe it's just everyone nods their heads and says, yes, it's a no-brainer, or maybe it's not. But I feel like I've heard a few points of contention, and I think it's a few, but still enough that I want to make sure we're clear on this. But does this committee agree, if we got the green light, that we would move forward with the MSBA funding? And then the part B to that I think we need to get answered is, if we get a no, are we still, as a community, still planning to move forward? And I have answers to those, but I think one thing that would be helpful is to make sure that as a committee, we're all on the same page about that too. So as far as the pros and cons of being part of that program and taking that funding, I think I don't want to make assumptions one way or the other, or have it be a discussion that comes back in 6 months that we're having to deal with. So that might be something too, to just make sure we are aligned on as a committee early in this process.
I'll start, Kristen, what, you have opinions, what, if you share them, I think maybe we can all.
Oh,
weigh
just
in,
I
if you don't mind.
simply, having listed out pros and cons, Carolyn's seen my lovely little like slide presentations that I create for myself. I think, frankly, financially, the pros outweigh the cons. I think, so I would say that we move forward. Obviously, if we get the green light, we take the funding, we do the project with the MSBA. I'm using that based on input I've gotten from others in the community and based on what other surrounding communities do and sort of where people have not done it and their projects have really floundered. So I think, my first answer would be yes, if we got the funding, we would take it and we would move forward with a project with the MSBA, but that's me. And I'd like to make sure we're all aligned. And then B, if we don't, I don't think we can wait, because I don't think we can waste any more time in getting an elementary school. So I think we would have to figure out a plan to move forward without it if we were denied, as opposed to waiting for another go round, which I don't even know if that's on the table. But those are just, very high level things I would love to just make sure we're on the same page because as I said, I did get the sense that there could be some pushback or concern about using the MSBA for the project. I think we need to agree as a committee where we are.
Well, I for one believe we should go forward with the MSBA funding, and I think that is probably it's the best way to go. You're right. Seeing some of the comments, some people don't think we should go that route, but I'm all for it. I'm all for moving forward once we get approved. And if we don't get approved, then you're right, we need a plan B. Do we still move forward and reassess where we're going to go, how we're going to go forward?
I'm not sure this project passes without MSBA funding. I think it's a no-brainer to use it. It's a lot of money. That is a state, the state has this program for communities like ours. There's, in my opinion, again, there's no reason not to. And then we were unsuccessful in our attempt to get in. I don't know if there's another good chance that we do get in the long run, meaning 10 years. So I think you have to go forward if we need a new school. That's just me.
I think it's like, for me, I think, because we're not going to officially like publicly know, right, Jeff, until December. So I think we just keep working on these other things that Mike has outlined. And I just think it's hard to know. I think we'll have a better idea of where the community is, and we'll be having location discussions leading up to that. I mean, I think we see that everyone's in agreement that we need something, that this isn't sustainable, but I think the appetite or how we feel about moving forward without it would be clearer once we have a decision from them.
I agree with Mike as well. I don't know if this project realistically has a chance without it. I mean, I think it's our only hope. I mean, after that was Steve from the Warren Committee who presented to us, right? Steve was his name. After that presentation from Steve, I mean, I don't see how it could happen. I mean, unless the town, miraculously develops some great industry that helps support our tax base, overnight. There's just no way the money's not there. I mean, the money's not there, and I don't think the appetite is there among community members to have their taxes increase, whatever that number would be, upwards of $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever the projected amount would be, 3-4 years out without MSBA funding. I think it's just an unrealistic number. So.
You believe the majority of people in town understand that? Because from what I've read, it seems like, again, some people, it doesn't seem to matter whether we get MSBA funding or not. So do we need to make that a bullet point, how critical it is? Or do we just let it Right.
No, I don't think the majority of people do understand. I don't think I fully understood that before I saw that presentation, right? That presentation, like that, I mean, that rocks my world. That was eye-opening to me
Mhm.
as far as numbers go. Like I did not have a good understanding. I don't think I still do, aside from, the information that I got from that presentation, as far as like what the real impact of this is going to be down the road in a few years, as far as our taxes go.
So should we be focusing on getting that point out, especially during the Medfield Day? How critical it is to have this funding to move forward?
People did have questions about it, so maybe a very simple outline that says, what is MSBA, and you could just sort of make up, if a project costs 70,000 for Medfield, we would get, I think, Jeff, you had said 38%, right?
Up to, yeah.
Up to.
Up to, well, that's huge, yeah.
Yeah, and begin to show that. I think some of the responses to not caring about MSBA came, what I heard personally, what people said to me is they were worried about not building what you want, having to do what the state wants you to do.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's realistic, but that's what they were thinking. And the second thing that people said to me was, people just feel like we need a new school yesterday because of the condition of Dale. And so it seems to be strongly thought out in the public that MSBA slows you down so much that it just takes much longer to get your school in the end. And there's a lot of people, and you can read the comments that say, just start it, we need it now, get a timeline, let's get going,
Yeah, timelines.
Yeah, there's a lot about a plan and a timeline, and we need to start, we can't wait any longer kind of comments and thoughts.
Which is really kind of why I think I was bringing this one up, which is, to me, it's almost at the top of the pyramid. And I think that there's some misunderstanding about what it does mean to be in or out of the program that could be cleared up, that would help people a lot. And I think it also speaks to the fact, which we've already discussed, and this is like the discussion we're having right now, we're not waiting for that decision. We're going to continue to move the product forward as far as we can. And that it's not, we're not slowing ourselves down by waiting to get in or out. And that, the reality of it being a slower process, like, all right, let us take you through the pros and cons. And that, a 30 to 40% give back of the funds is going to outweigh a possible 2-month delay or 3-month delay where were it to truly be a slower process, which I think we don't know. We just don't know. But I think that's the point of this, which is, these are the things I think we need to get ahead of as a committee so that we don't have straggling commentary in the community that brings us back to a primary discussion in 6 or 8 or 12 months time. Like, let's get ahead of it now. Let's make sure we're on the same page. If we think that if there's community education, let's do it and move forward.
I think the survey showed us that cost was, am I remembering correctly, Carolyn, for the people that had voted no, like the top factor or the second?
Was cost.
Yes, cost
location,
was number one. So I think
Yeah.
to move forward, knowing that that was the number one factor, Steve did that presentation, but I think I think people are gonna have to understand the difference in cost.
Yeah,
Because
great.
that is still the number one factor for a lot of people. So if that difference is cost is a deal breaker, I also don't want to be spinning our wheels trying to create something that is not going to go through. My other question, Jeff, is do you have any data on towns that, voted no, like Medfield, and their success at getting back into the program? I don't know if they publish that or if I'm just wondering the appetite of MSBA to.
Yeah, I mean, it has happened in the past, and I think what they want to see is that, the town is more together than they were on a failed vote. And, that they're working toward a new goal, and whatever that new goal may be. I think that's really important to them because, they gave us $1 million as a town, right? And, well, I shouldn't say that. We spent the $1 million, they reimbursed it 380,000 or almost 400,000. So they won't fund a feasibility study again. So that's all on the town. So when they do a feasibility study, that you're one and done with them, they won't do that again. But to your point, so many of you have said that it's a really good process and a structured process. And yeah, it might take a little bit longer, but there's a reason why everyone else uses them. You get that reimbursement money, and there are certain standards that you have to hit and timelines that you have to hit, and it keeps the project moving. I wouldn't say MSBA slowed us down. I would say COVID slowed us down last time. That was the issue. We kept, having to do more forums, but take a break because people weren't engaged. Like that slowed us down. The MSBA really did. We hit all our MSBA timelines when we had to, but we asked for extensions, and it was really made by Medfield, not by MSBA. So that narrative isn't really accurate on as far as them slowing us down at all.
I mean, like, is there any historical data on towns that voted no, and then like how long it took them to get?
Yeah,
approved?
I'd have to look at MSBA. I mean, they have all that
Okay.
information, but yeah, they definitely have it. And a lot of it depends on what schools applied for the SOI that particular year, so it's a
Jeff, would it be realistic or just unrealistic, is too much to do, that for Medfield Day, we had an information sheet on MSBA and just said, this came up in the survey with a lot of questions and we just wanted people to understand it better?
yeah, sure, that's easy to do.
Is that?
Yep.
that would-
That's a good idea.
One of my notes from the survey results was explain MSBA funding and how it impacts us.
Yeah.
Because I believe that was an open question that a lot of people had.
Yeah.
So that might be a nice something just to explain in a quick, pamphlet or whatever it may be.
Yeah, we could do that.
Even if you had just raw Word document with bullet points or some, I could easily format that to fit our group.
Yeah, I think we have something on our website from the last time I can pull up, but we can certainly put something together on that. That's not a big deal.
Because we use the word a lot, right? It just and so just an information sheet. It's not saying yay or nay, but just once you understand it, then let us know what you think about it. I agree that if we get in, we absolutely should take it and go forward. If we don't get in, I mean, I feel such urgency to do something about Dale. But I have the worries that many people have mentioned, how hard it will be to go forward without MSBA funds. But there is a big part of me that says we should try anyhow, because it's been a long time that Dale should have had something done to it, and we haven't done it. So
Yeah,
I worry. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I just worry about waiting, and it just goes on and on and on down the road for years.
So to get back to Kristen's original point and question, I think we've got, at least from the people on board on this call, Michelle is probably the only one that we didn't hear from.
Yes, I think that we need to move forward with the MSBA, providing that we get in. I think the only thing I would caution after listening to everybody speak is when we are at Medfield Day, I think it's important that our messaging is very just FYI on MSBA and not steering people one way or the other, because there's a very real probability that even though that might be the best option for us financially, that we don't get in, right? So I don't want our messaging on Medfield Day to come across in some sort of, we're so pro MSBA and then we don't get in. And then, I don't know, I just want to be very careful with our messaging there. And then if we don't get into MSBA, I do think we need to have some sort of plan, I guess, similar to what Carolyn says, of like, just figuring it out. I mean, it might feel, I don't know, band-aidy because of what we would be able to afford as a town versus what we'd be able to get from MSBA. But I mean, something, it sounds like we all agree something needs to be done, but I do think that MSBA is going to be our best bet from a financial standpoint to get a school that serves our community the best.
Thanks. So All right, so going back to the timeline real quick, just while it's up here. So, and then, I guess we were past this yellow section here, like schematic design. This project funding obviously is a vote, right? That's where we pretty much stopped last time. And then DD sets, CD sets, and then we have to procure general contractor. So it's either done through chapter 149 or 149A. There are pros and cons to both of those. One's a little bit more expensive, one's a little bit quicker. I have my opinions about that, but we can get to that much later down the road. Then we bid it out and then construction starts. So being in construction, the one thing I will say in regards to timing is that if the town is 100% aligned, this is a big if, and if you had funding for an architect and an OPM, so once that's done, you could set a GMP for a job and build it within 2 years. So the MSBA process, from how I understand it and what I lived last time, was very structured, and I agree with Jeff that it kept you on timeline, and they do a pretty good job with that. Also allows for a lot of community involvement during that time. But the physical building can go up pretty quick. There's a lot to it, but
Yeah.
these things can go up. So
Michael, I have a question. That is for the 2 years for construction. Is that enough time also in case we have to do a demo on Dale itself and rebuild? Is 2 years adequate? Because
Sure.
there are so many unknowns. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so regardless of the demo, I mean, the children, assuming we use Dale Street site as existing, I mean, the grades would have to be reconfigured. So the plan would have to be set in place by this committee, the school committee. What are we going to do with those 2 grades for a certain amount of time? So
Right.
you plan that ahead of time, and then you knock it down, and then you build. So you basically create a greenfield site, or if you're using some of the building, 2 years is sufficient. I mean, we're about to build a hospital in Norwood over here for in just under 2 years. So that's a little bit more of a complex project. So again, I'll share this document. I don't want to belabor the point, but these yellow ones, I think we should focus on the Medfield Day. And I agree with Michelle, the high level, what is MSBA is probably a good enough handout, because there is a chance we don't get in and we still have to move forward. So we don't want to be like, this is so great, we haven't been in yet. So, okay. Next slide is project sites. This was a discussion we talked about last time. And I've listed the sites that we went through last time. So candidly, I was not in all the discussions of all of the sites that were presented by the architect and researched by the architect. And the information I have from them from the last time is spotty. So we're basically starting anew. These were the main sites that were listed to the group last time. And it was quickly narrowed down to 2 sites, obviously Dale and Wheelock. But generally speaking, 201 town-owned sites. The town owns 201 parcels of land someplace. 50 sites that are owned by the town are adequately sized for a school. So that 201 gets narrowed down to 50 real quickly. I don't know what that acreage is, candidly, 10 acres, 15, I don't know that answer. Of those 50 sites, 6 of them were free of wetlands, legal designations, or others that were, too remote from town center. Again, I don't know what too remote is. The town's not that big. So, but again, this is just from last time. Obviously, Dale Street and Wheelock, we pretty much know about those 2 sites. The other sites that we had listed were the Hospital Hill. So this is the sledding hill side. Okay. So this is listed as a municipal use, not included in agreement with DCAM. And Christine, I'm not sure exactly what that means. If we have an agreement, how that land was purchased, a lot of these is it in the deed that, have,
It's limited. There's only a certain amount of acreage that can be used for a building. The rest of it has to remain passive recreation because it was prime agricultural soils.
okay. And I don't know what that size is either, but again, it's, as far
Yep.
as it could be an option still, I assume. But I don't know that answer exactly, but again, these are just the sites that, and I kind of listed, things that are good and bad that were from the last time we went around. So there are no utilities there. It's a bit of a remote location, which may increase operational costs. And again, you lose a recreation area if the school's built there. So that's pretty self-explanatory. McCarthy Park site, this is land controlled by Park and Rec. I don't know what Article 97 is. Maybe Christine, you can help us there.
Sorry. Article 97 land is land that has been taken for conservation purposes and requires a vote of the board and the legislature to pull that land out of conservation purposes.
Okay, so feasible, but again, just an added step, another layer of.
Feasible, but very, very, very difficult in order to do that.
It'd be a battle.
So this
And-
is,
And Metacomet is such a chunk of land?
I'd have to look. I don't know off the top of my head if Metacomet was Article 97 land.
And can I also ask, because this has been brought up, so that baseball field that's on the Dale Street property, somebody told me that that was named for somebody. Is that true? And is that the school property or is that also a town like set for recreational purposes, that spot?
Carolyn, it's my understanding that that's called Veterans Field.
Okay.
Richard DeSorger had let me know about that, and also the veterans agent in town. So that was, I don't know the year it was named that, but I know it's been there for a while. There's no signage though. That's what they talked to me about, getting some signage up there so that folks know that it's Veterans Field.
And is it come under you, Jeff, under the school that, or is it like a separate little chunk that's town recreation?
Well, our guys have, we've actually done it a couple of ways. Our guys have done some of the maintenance on it, and then the local baseball association has done maintenance on it as well. So I'd have to double check. I think it is ours, but I have to double check that. We also use the middle part for sub-varsity field hockey in the fall as well.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen them out there. Okay, great. Thank you. That's helpful.
in, as a point of reference, going through some of the design options in the last go around, some of the design options did have the school in that location, Carolyn. So
Okay,
it did feel like to me that it was okay to build there, but we would have to check again. We'll go through it again. We'll obviously narrow down if that's the place we want to put it. Okay, so go ahead. Okay. Redgate Farm site, probably no sewer access. This is also Article 97 land. And it was acquired in 2015 to preserve open space. Also, it's in a, it's traffic and access issues with a narrow bridge there. So more than likely, that's probably not a good option as well, but again, an option. The hospital campus itself, I think we all are aware that it has its own master plan, and a school does not on that master plan. And that took years and years and years of work for people to, the town to put together. So as well as a lot of historic buildings on that site. So again, an option, but there's probably a million hoops to get through. And candidly, the town's already put together a master plan for that area. So I don't know if that's a good option or not, but probably not. And then Metacomet, which I don't know if it was researched prior. I wrote it here because I was wondering why it hadn't been researched prior. Probably because of the community athletics and how often it's used, like every night, all spring and fall. But again, that is an option. So when we talk about, real possibilities. You know, if we say Article 97, if we take that, meaning that we can't get it through, that won't work. That eliminates at least 2 more.
Mhm.
I would probably eliminate the hospital campus again because of the massive and the 10 years of work that, you know, a lot of our citizens have gone through to put a plan together there.
Yeah.
So if I took, you know, those 3 out, and again, not knowing, you know, that building on a hill is certainly feasible and definitely doable. I'll leave the Hospital Hill sledding site on there. But again, there's probably much more challenging than
The
some of
utilities would really increase the cost of a project. All the electric, sewer, potable water, everything.
For sure. I mean, the good news is that it is on street right there, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't disagree that there's certainly a cost there, and it will be substantial in nature as far as millions of dollars, but you know, a couple to 3, not
Yeah.
10 to 15.
Agreed.
But again, those are, you know, again, I think it was Tony who was asking what are the other possible sites.
Mhm.
This is kind of what I came up with. And Metacom is the only one that I really didn't have any information on. I just kind of threw that on there myself, knowing that the town owned it, knowing that it's a sizable area. My gut tells me that if it went on Metacomet, then Dale would become a Little League field, a lacrosse fields, tennis courts, whatever, maybe the tennis courts stay, yeah, something like that, right? So I just wanted to show everyone this, and again, I'll share it with you guys.
I think that could be a difficult place too, because the tennis teams play on those tennis courts for the high school.
Mhm.
So they're just with Curve Street, the way it is and the narrowness, it is a very different. I don't know. I just think that area would be very, very challenging to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the tennis courts can stay, right? Because it's pretty big space other than that. But you might be right too. Maybe the traffic is too much or congestion or whatever it may be.
Yeah, Mike, I would think that, you know, if the Wheelock site was too much for traffic for some folks, I mean, now you're putting a school closer to the middle high school. So I can't imagine that would be feasible for people. And the other piece too, I just want to add, I don't know if that area between the 2 schools is good to build in, between Dale and Memorial, because I really just recently learned about the Veterans Field piece. So I'm not so sure, Mike, that even be something we could consider. I don't know.
Who would we ask to figure
Yeah.
that out?
Yeah.
DPW.
Well, no, I think my point is that it'll be a bone of contention for folks, you know, because it was named that years and years ago, and I think people would want to preserve that, I would think. But I just got an email from the veterans agent last week on this. So
Oh, on the field and,
on the field, yeah, because I guess there's some funds left over in an account that he would like to get some signage there to make folks understand that is Veterans Field. So I don't know if that would be problematic as well. I don't know.
yeah.
Looks like it would.
Certainly we'd have to look at, but one of the things we could, if it somehow turned out to be that is a help, is good for the school piece of it, is remaking it, you know,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Certainly.
obviously putting it back, not if you ever took it away, you'd want to replace it. And I think, because we heard a lot about how we didn't have a plan for the Dale land, as some people voted no. So like something like Metacomet, you would have to put in the cost, what it would take to rebuild those fields in another place. That adds to the cost. And I'm not saying people wouldn't vote for it, but I think it's something we absolutely this time around need to put in dollars and cents and show.
In all of youth baseball, you need a field that has lights. Like there's also electrical, like,
Right.
so you'd have to work with that. That would have to be done before we even started so that they would have somewhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the first pass, focusing on the ones that are absolute no's for specific reasons, like the land is not available to us or to the community for the purposes of a school, versus we think that there could be hesitation or traffic issues or sentimental, like there's like sort of two pieces to that. And I think we just need to separate out, like, these ones are not possible and here's why, like hospital
Mhm.
campus no longer on the table because of X. Let's, eliminate the things that we are beyond our control or not possible. And then I do think, like with the Dale Street one, we need to confirm, is that whole plot of land available for building, separate from the issue of, people might feel a certain way about it, because at some point this town is going to need to come up with some compromises. And if, yes, I want this location, but I want to be specific about where on this location, we're all going to have a little come to Jesus here and bend on some things. So I would say let's focus on eliminating the things that we absolutely cannot work with because of, legal reasons or otherwise. And then, for the other ones, let's just get confirmation. Is that a comment viable or not? If it is, keep it there. If it's not, kill it. And let's find out about the fields at Dale Street. Whoever, we can get to verify those things for us.
Yeah, also the size of the field too, because it's a fair amount of space there. So the baseball field, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I think Kristen is a good point. I just, if we're building a state-of-the-art school, 2 grades, 3 grades, doesn't matter. There may not be enough space on the current Dale Street site alone. It might have to encroach in that field anyways. I know there's a playground there and then some open space and then the baseball field. But again, that's what architects are for. They're pretty good at this stuff. So anyways, I'm happy to continue this discussion, but generally I'll send this to you guys, and I think, the reality is it probably comes down to 2 or 3 of these sites.
Right.
Anyways, and that's pretty much, what it is. So I don't know, any other comments on that other than kind of this is where we were at? Again, an architect, this is part of their due diligence of what they do. And that would be done, when we get to that point. We can also continue the discussion and narrowly focus our sights on one, and then comes a lot easier when you get to some of the other milestones. You don't have to really discuss, in this PDP, you don't necessarily need site selection, but if you had it, that might be helpful, right? And really just kind of fast track some of these other, fast track the PSR a little bit more. It might help with the SD set of drawings. So again, just thinking ahead here, things that we can do without MSBA, without a ton of funding right now.
What I know about construction, you could fit in a thimble, but I would say getting us figured out on the site, considering what the feedback from the community was about the importance of location, should really be a top priority. And that if we're going to move forward and, come up with, architectural drawings and possibilities, that we're not trying to do that for multiple sites. Again, this is someone who has no experience with this stuff, but maybe that's what you're supposed to do. But I think I got to believe that, where we were on the last vote, we should figure our plan out on what's the best site. And if it's something that we also need to get community input, get it early and put that decision behind us. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
Was there ever a discussion during the last committee about like any sites that are not owned by the town? Any kind of, like, I'm thinking like outside the box, like privately owned sites, sites that are owned by other organizations in town, either with or without existing structures that could or could not be used. I'm thinking like down the road, if we don't end up getting the funding, just kind of outside the box, did that ever come up in any discussions? I mean, I know there's some big parcels of land that are privately owned in town or owned by businesses or corporations.
Not to my knowledge, Robert, no.
Yeah, I think.
I like the way
I
you're
don't think that would fit in our budget.
Yeah, the concern was the
I think
budget.
it's the biggest,
Yeah.
yeah, most
Yeah,
likely
no,
that's,
like sometimes there's been, I know there's been cases, maybe not in Massachusetts, but in other parts of the country where like land has been donated to fund, to,
Mhm.
assist in the completion of a project or a, a building or existing structures have been donated. Again, I mean, I'm thinking like, we just have such a limited list there that I would just hate to see if there was any possible, and I don't know the town well enough to know if there's any existing places or parcels of land, but I know that has happened in other parts of the country where they've donated parcels of land for use of building whatever it is, schools and other community resources.
Or they take them by eminent domain in Massachusetts. I mean, that's happened for schools too.
Yeah,
I think the cities run into that because they just don't have the space that some of the towns do, so they do that more often than towns. But I think that thinking back to that a few years ago, I think the thought was that it would just add cost to it. And we felt fortunate enough to have so many parcels of land that the town owned that we wouldn't have to then pay a land fee as well, like that was what the thinking was, but.
I would ask, does anyone have any land they want to give us? I mean, maybe that's our next survey.
Can we add in for free?
There you go. Yeah. Sorry, that was a given for me, but yes, I'm telling you, I was all ready to fund it with that Powerball. It just didn't happen.
The other thing that I would say, just based on some survey results and discussions after the last vote, is that the last committee was very adamant not to talk about what happens to Dale afterwards because it wasn't in our purview. And I didn't disagree with that, and I still don't. But if it doesn't go at Dale, that was a big question for a lot of the townspeople. So
why
we
is
should-
that? Why is that
Yeah.
such a critical item? Yes, it should be reused by somebody sometime, but is it critical to have an answer, not so much an answer, but have a plan in case we don't go to the Dale Elementary location? Can't it sit for a little while so we can focus on the school and the needs for the school? And then get back, and then, of course, that might be a new committee altogether, what to do with Dale. Why is there so much attention to it in case we don't use Dale? Am I missing something here? I just don't.
There were a couple of big reasons that came with it. One was the hospital sat abandoned for so long.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you mentioned like 10 years, but really, I was here in 91, and since the 90s, we were trying to decide what to do with that land.
okay.
And it takes money to board up a building and take care of a building or demolish a building.
Mhm.
And there were many people who said it isn't really 80 million because then you have to do something with Dale. So now it's 100 million. And, they threw out numbers, but there was a sense of, I'm not getting the whole picture for my taxes because you're not telling me and I'm going to have to pay for that. Or the town would, people were afraid the town was going to sell that property. And then you didn't know what was going to be in that spot.
Mhm.
That we all see these new big, many floor buildings with units and condos in them. And
Yeah.
that was mentioned as fears, justified or not, of leaving a space and not having a plan or a reassurance of what might happen.
So is that a bad thing? For it
Well,
being by selling the old school?
It wasn't that it was good or bad, it's just that it turns out that a lot of the no votes, the use of Dale led to no's. There are people who said they would have voted, but with no
Mhm.
plan for Dale, they became a no. So if you're just looking at a plan that more people would support, that is a factor. Like Jeff mentioned, the traffic turned out to be a reason for no votes.
Yeah.
And I counted them up in the comments, and we have 3 comment sections, and just in one, there were 50 people who voted no because of traffic and 50 no because of no plan for Dale. So that's,
Okay.
It's a really good question. And again, one that the last committee didn't maybe overlooked, like the significance of it. And I think Carolyn's answer was spot on. As far as more fun, it's going to cost the town something to either mothball it or demo it. I'm sure we could sell it, but what's going to go there, all those things were certainly possibilities. And your answer, Carolyn, was exactly what I would have said. So, all right. I think that pretty much, I guess the only other thing that I think we should probably talk about is maybe when do you want to do this again? And does this format work during the summertime? And time work for people? Yes, no.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible both ways, but this is easier and
yeah, I can do either way is fine with me, but whatever works to get a good group here is super important.
Are we aiming for the end of August?
So good question, Meredith. What do you think?
Well, it depends on how much lead time we need for the things that we want to have ready at Medfield Day. So if we work backwards from there,
Yeah.
if the primary goal of our next meeting is to figure out banner, handouts, QR codes, make a video, how much lead time do we need from September 23rd to be saying, okay, here's what everyone's doing, go?
Yeah,
yes, so end of August sounds like it's probably the right time to have a next meeting.
and then maybe like 2 weeks or somewhere after to really
Yeah.
fine tune Medfield Day. And I don't think it needs to be a super long meeting. Like this one will be over in an hour and 25 minutes. So my gut tells me the next one will be a little bit longer to really dial in what we're going to do, who's going to do what, and then finalize it, maybe the first week of September, right after Labor Day or right before Labor Day, something like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking with the schools, that's busy that last week of August opening and everything. That's
Sure.
really busy time. So maybe we could just do the week prior to that.
Like the 21st, August 21st?
Yeah, and then do something, it has to be pretty soon after Labor Day, so that we're really ready for that Saturday. I don't want to do a last minute, not put well together thing,
So if we meet on the 21st, that gives us 1, 2, 3, almost 4 full weeks to kind of get materials and things like that together.
Yeah, I think that is a better week than the very last week with school starting.
How's the 21st at 5 p.m. work for a virtual meeting for you guys?
Fine.
Great.
Good for me.
Yep.
And I think the agenda, Christine, the minutes, I'll put them on there again. If you don't have them, you don't have them. And then
Sounds good.
we'll just discuss Medfield Day at that time. Okay.
So between now and then though, Mike, do we want to at least get a draft of the write-ups that we talked about to start circulating? So MSBA, members of the committee, highlights of what we've been doing and decisions to come. I mean, we can get drafts of that started up, right?
So I'll try to get the communication committee to meet before that 21st, and our purpose will be to make the highlight document. Jeff, does that give you enough time for the MSBA kind of?
Sure.
Yeah.
As far as that video and QR code, I can create that at any time. I think that's probably a couple of day process, as long as everybody just did a quick, hey, this is who I am sort of thing. If you'd like, I can send out a draft email of like maybe how long it should be and what you should say. name, how long you've been in town, how you got appointed to the committee, and what you're excited about, something like that. You know, it'd be really, really simple.
I think
20
that would be
seconds.
very helpful. Do you want us to, and also what format? Like, do you want it emailed with an attachment with the little video? Or like,
Yeah, so I'll just use the school emails that the Gmail accounts that we all set up.
okay,
And if you just did it on your phone and sent it to me, I can splice them together and create the QR code once they're all together. That's pretty easy. But it'll live someplace, it'll live in a private YouTube probably, and you know, you can't even get onto it through YouTube, but that's where it usually lives. Have a QR code directed to that.
okay.
Okay, so I'll do that. And then as far as Carolyn, if you guys meet and you need anything as far as, hey, this is what a banner should look like, or like, just send it to me and I'll start having the people who are way more creative than me work on that for us.
Sure, yeah.
It's certainly not my expertise, but I have people here who can certainly help with that. I think the only thing that might have a lead time is probably like if we're gonna give magnets out or whatever it may be. So Carolyn, maybe this, if you want, maybe make that the focus of that, like part of that communication committee. You guys can, again, I can hop on with you guys if you want and maybe get creative, you know, with it. But if you just, hey, we want this QR code to lead to our website, and we want it to say Medfield Dale Street School 2.0, whatever, you know, what you name it, whatever it may be. Just let me know.
Okay, yeah, I think we'd keep it really simple, you know, just a QR code and something so people know what it's for, and we can, you know, stickers and magnets or one or the other, and then, you know, just, I don't know, does your company make that stuff, or I'll find a company that
No,
makes?
I have vendors that we use all the time for stuff like that though.
Oh, that's great.
So we'll design it, send it to them, and they'll make them for us.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, yeah, that would be, then we'll just have some kind of a label and then the code.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Just,
generally,
we have vendors set up for the town too, so
okay,
we
I
can
can
go through
create it and
that.
send it to you, Christine, sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be better so we can manage the procurement on that.
And that's where I was going also, is as far as costs go. We're gonna have some costs here associated with any materials that need to be printed, things of that nature. Probably the only cost is what I'm thinking. Like the rest of the stuff is just our time,
Sounds good.
right? So that, Christine, I assume that we can just approve those invoices afterwards once we get them? That's what
Yeah,
it's,
that's fine. That's not a problem.
and I don't expect the cost to be more than a couple of $100, like really, you know, maybe.
Yeah. We
Okay,
can talk about that offline.
great.
Christine, just, so I don't, so make sure I'm doing this right, since the other members aren't here right now, can I send them an email asking for dates to meet? And can I highlight the two things that have come out of this committee in my email that we would be focusing on?
I think you can send out a date asking them to confirm the meeting, and you can put 2 agenda topics.
Okay, thank you.
And also I'll send out a group email just to loop those other people in of the 21st at 5 PM, and we'll do a Zoom. And we'll go from there. All right.
Good.
Do I hear anyone wanting to close the meeting?
I think we got to do public comment, right?
Do we have any? Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 people.
Thank you for that. Looks like Steve and Chris are on. You guys want to type in or any comments in the question and answers? I don't see any currently.
I can
type
allow
in.
Chris to talk, so it's easier than typing.
Yeah, why don't you just do that? That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Hold on, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Thanks,
Hello.
thanks, Christine. I couldn't type fast enough. I just a real quick one. I had sent around a document. I didn't actually expect to have it addressed tonight. I just figured it might be good food for thought in terms of piggybacking on prior discussions around building trust in the community. And I just put down some ideas. I thought maybe it might be helpful for the committee to see and think about and maybe discuss at a future date if they found it was helpful. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Steve, no Caroline. All right, great. I think we're all set there then. All right, anyone want to adjourn the meeting? Do I hear a
Motion to adjourn, Michelle Kirkby.
I second it.
great? Let's do a roll call around the room. Kristen,
Christine Slaney, yes.
Mike Weber, yes. Michelle,
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Carolyn,
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Bob,
Bob Donahoe, yes.
Robert,
Robert Worth, yes.
Meredith,
Meredith Chamberlain, yes.
and Steve, and looks like Jeff's already gone. Thank you, everyone. I think that was productive. I appreciate it. And again, I apologize for the last meeting mess up. All right, we'll see you on the 21st. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.